So I have not fallen off the mounting block since Aiken earlier this year, back in March, and we happened to get that on video, which was hilarious. And luckily for me, I guess, we also got this one on video. Actually, that was much more graceful than the last time I fell off the mounting block. But I left it in here because it just shows how he didn't even react. It was like he didn't even notice that the mounting block tipped over and I sort of fell. He's just such a good boy. So this is Ballycotton Bay. This is a 16 1.5 hand 4-year-old thoroughbred gelding by Quality Road. He's had 10 career starts and he just ran on October 30th. So he's just about 2 weeks post his last start. And he was just a super unproductive horse. I don't think he ever hit the board as a racehorse. So unfortunately for his racing connections, not meant to be a racehorse, but he is most definitely meant to be somebody's sport horse. And when he came, to be honest, after our first ride or so, I thought he was perfectly fine. Like, I didn't think there was anything wrong with him, but I just thought he was sort of average. But we bonded over the weekend, and now I absolutely adore him. So Billy was gone hauling to Indiana and Michigan this weekend, so it was just me and him. And on Saturday, it was windy, warm and windy. And so when I was going to ride Bally, my dad wanted to do some mowing around the ring. So I thought that's fine. So I got on him in the yard and we hacked down the driveway and we actually started our ride out in the field, which was only the third time I've ridden him. So I thought that that was all very impressive. And also, meanwhile, it's also extremely windy while we're doing all of this. So I thought that was excellent and I was very happy with him. So then my dad finishes mowing around the ring. So then we hack into the ring and we start trotting around. And I did not realize that my dad had gotten out the weed whacker and that he was going to proceed to weed whack around the metal buildings. And if you've never heard a weed whacker hit a tin building, it's really, really loud. And if you're not expecting it, it's extremely spooky. And I definitely spooked when it started up, and Bally just did not react at all. So instantly, then I knew we were going to be friends because it was just such a good brain non reaction to what I thought was an extremely sort of scary, spooky situation. So we had a great ride on Saturday. And then yesterday on Sunday, it was like 20 degrees colder and just unbelievably windy, as I think many people who are probably listening to this are also experiencing. So I actually didn't ride him yesterday, but I did take him out to the ring, and I knew that today on Monday, I wanted to introduce him to poles and little jumps and things, as you're seeing we're doing here, and he was excellent. So I thought I would just take the opportunity, since it was not a good riding weather day, to just bring him out there on the lunge line and just like walk him over things and see what he thought. And he actually lunged over everything in the ring, like in a circle around me, not following me. And if you've ever tried to lunge green horses over jumps, it's actually pretty difficult. And if you don't have some sort of a chute or like a really good wing to help you, if they don't want to do it, it's actually impossible. It can be really hard to get a horse to lunge over jumps without a good chute or sort of like outside line to help you. And of course, I had none of that. And he just so happily lunged himself over all the jumps in the ring. I was very impressed. So I knew coming out for this ride today that he was going to be a good boy because he was so agreeable over the weekend. And I really felt like I got to know him on the next level. And now I really, really trust him and I appreciate him just as such a good boy. So this is our warm up. We walked over a bunch of stuff. I didn't leave too much of that in the video because it's just kind of boring and it makes the video too long. But we walked over everything first. And then we just start trotting over poles. You can see that then he was doing so well that I thought we would start introducing cantering over poles. And so I think the first time we cantered the pole, he didn't quite have the footwork. And I think he got tripped up behind. But then to the next one, he was just excellent. He clearly learned to that. And he did the next one really well. So just a really quick study to this stuff. And to be honest, though, what I find the most important, because of course, when you're doing your first couple of jump schools, or probably even your first few months of jumping, they have to figure out all the footwork and the form and all that stuff. So it's not like they're going to come out jumping like they're ready, go jump a 3-meter course. It takes time and development. So they're going to be awkward. They're going to be wiggly sometimes. They're going to make all sorts of mistakes, but they have to do that. They have to make those mistakes in order to learn and to figure it out. And we want them to make these mistakes when the things are super tiny so that it's very non-threatening to their confidence and they can make a mistake without feeling punished. And so I thought he was fabulous about all that. Of course, he made plenty of, I don't even want to call them mistakes, just lots of learning about what to do with his feet over things in the trot and in the canter. But what I really liked the most was just his brain and his temperament. It's not as windy today as it was yesterday. I feel like yesterday the wind was blowing like 40 miles an hour. Today it's just a breezy, 25 mile an hour gust. So it's not quite blowing the jumps over today, but it is still windy. And so the environment is kind of bustling and chaotic feeling. Excuse me. And he really just went around with the loop in the rein and happily plodded over everything I put in front of him. He was super straight for such a green horse doing these things for the first time. And I was paying attention to riding on the other side of the fence, meaning that just jumping the fence isn't quite good enough. I'm trying to personally pay more attention to making sure I'm directing the horse after we jump the jump. So, for example, landing on the correct lead. And so that's what I was thinking about for myself as we did this jump school. And he was so receptive. I mean, he really was trying. He was listening so often when I was asking him to land on one specific lead or another. He did it just like an absolute champion. And so he made me feel like I was smart, even though I'm pretty sure that he's just a really good boy. So brave. That was our bigger flower box, and he was very brave to that. Excuse me. I don't know why I'm coughing all of a sudden now. He also just has a fantastic canter. And for such a windy day, doing something for the first time, just like so easy just to sort of lope along with a little loop in the rein, no problem, no silliness whatsoever. Oh, one thing I mentioned in his last ride video, which was his second ride, was that he was noisy. He was talking to me a lot, like groaning and moaning and making all sorts of comical noises. That must have been his little internal way of just telling me he was a little bit nervous, because that has faded and faded now as we put more rides on him. So today, maybe a tiny little bit of talking, but almost nothing. Like if I was just riding him for the first time today, I wouldn't have noticed it or thought anything of it. So that is certainly going away, but I will say I do think it's comical that he was so noisy with his moaning and groaning about what he thought about all the things. So he was so good to the poles and little fillers that he graduated to a couple of cross rails, which obviously jumped that one quite cute. Now, we did canter a couple of poles earlier on. I sort of had the idea of if he wanted to keep cantering, that we would keep cantering. He wanted to break to the trot. And so, this is just his first jump school. If he wants to trot to the jumps, that's totally appropriate. It's a very fine line. I don't want to force him or rush him to do something he's not ready to do. But I also would like to make the suggestion that that is a possibility and that that's where we'll be going. So he wanted to trot these things today. So that was a nice little learning moment where he sort of left out a step. He should have put his foot down again before we left the ground. So here we're going to come back around and we're going to do that one more time. And much better. Very good boy. So he was excellent. Couldn't ask more from this horse, especially on a windy day. And actually, the other thing I should mention is that my farrier was here today. And so we just pulled off his hind shoes about 2 hours before we did this ride. So I was very impressed because he felt perfectly fine. He looks perfectly fine behind. And that's just impressive because usually they're a little bit sore behind after they get their hind shoes pulled right off. So he has very good feet, and well, even when they have good feet, they can still be a little ouchy when you pull off their hind shoes, but he was not. He's a very tough boy. And so here's him on cross ties. I finally managed to take and remember to put the on the ground footage in the video, and he's a very good boy on the ground.